Hello,
Hello.
hello, world. Happy Friday. Is it Friday? It is Friday.
Yeah.
It
Been
better be Friday.
pretty busy week.
It is
Yeah.
been it has been a busy week. So yeah, we
Yeah.
are actually a little change of schedule here. We are live a little early today, like an hour early. But Fridays we do a chat show, which is during the pandemic we have been missing out hanging out with folks, so we consciously take the time to sit down and chat. And I'm your host, Sam Basu. Welcome to the chat show. So, morning, afternoon, evening, wherever you might be. Thanks for joining us here at Code It Live. And with me today, I have my very good friend, Lance. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me on today.
Absolutely. Lance is awesome, and we love him. But today, unfortunately, we're not here to just talk about Lance, which we should really get Lance back sometime. So, Lance, what we do is we ask a lot of questions about where you started, how are things going with you, what excites you, what makes you passionate to work in tech, and all that good stuff. But since I have you this week, I thought we will do something different because this was, like you said, a big week. We had Microsoft Build happen, right?
Yep.
So busy week with lots of announcements, lots of things going on. So since Lance is so much into this stuff, so we thought we'll do a little build recap to kind of go through some of the bigger announcements that are relevant. Like build is like so big. Like there are folks at Microsoft who watch build to kind of catch up on what their other teams are doing. Like they just talk about so many different technologies that it's just impossible to keep up or stay on top of. But we're going to talk about things mostly for .NET devs. Is that right?
Yep. Yep.
Okay. So let's take a look at all that happened. And I'm going to move this window over and bring up or share my desktop here real quick. So bear with me.
Yeah, to your
Share.
point of other teams at Microsoft, people inside Microsoft using Build as a learning resource just tells you how, information dense this event is.
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
So it was what 3 days, 2.5 days worth of stuff. Started on Tuesday, and yeah, it was almost 48 plus hours long. I think most of their recordings and highlights are getting up, if not all of it. So a lot to kind of take in, and we are getting into a long weekend here in the States, so a lot for us to kind of maybe catch up on. But as starting points, as to kind of have pointers of how we break things down, Lance doesn't know this yet, but we are going to go off Lance's tweets, right? Because Lance is clearly passionate about these things, so we're going to start with him and see what he finds exciting. But Lance, let me see if I can pull up your initial tweets around build. My internet is being a little slow today, but well, you also tweet quite a bit. I think
Well,
I'll
this event I was
yeah, Dev
Microsoft asked
MC.
me to be a
Yeah,
dev MC, so
so I
I
want to ask about that. Yeah.
feet on the ground. Yeah. If it was a physical event, I would be walking around interviewing the different session speakers and people after leaving sessions and product owners and stuff like that. But virtual, we have to try to provide people information that keeps their focus. So, like you said, there's a lot of tweets in my feed this week, but you could follow them like a timeline,
Yeah.
like what we do today.
hmm Okay, so I think this is kind of where we started. May 25th, you said, "Here's your setup." And so, what is exactly is a Dev MC for Build?
So Microsoft has the Windows Dev part of the org, right? And they have their own team of people who aggregate the learning materials, things like docs and demos and access to other different product owners, and just something that is a valuable resource for any Windows developer. It's a whole different world if you didn't know these existed and you have to try to figure this stuff out for yourself, or if you were on Twitter or Twitch or LinkedIn, and you do know where these people are and get information from them. So the whole point of an MC is for us to help cater to a particular audience and consolidate the relevant information that is the most valuable at that time. And we help, you'll see as we go through my timeline, I call out highlights of different sessions that are happening. I share my schedule so you can join me during the different sessions that I'm attending. I show you tips on how to use your backpack. Like you can download your build backpack and keep learning for weeks after the event.
Yeah. This was a nice thing. Like not only could you I'm not signed in here, but you could share your session, the things that you chose to watch or you were interested in, and then you could put things in the backpack. And then could you export your backpack out as some sort of a file?
Yeah, you can export it as a Microsoft Word document, but there's a bonus in there. When you download it, it's not just the link to the session or the session description. Each session owner provided a bunch of additional resources like links to demos and docs and videos and Microsoft Learn. So each one is divided up. You'll see one of my tweets, I give you a screenshot of one of my sessions in the backpack, and it just shows you how much is there.
Nice. I don't think I put a whole lot of things, but I can try this real quick and then see what we did. So right up there is your backpack and that. So and so then that's the download button. So that's what gets you a Word doc. Interesting.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So before we start with Bill, this is where we started. This was your setup. Maybe walk us through a little bit. That's your main monitor that you look at, right?
Yep.
The ultra wide.
That's where I'm sitting right now. You see the microphone. Yes. In that picture, it's hanging from the top, but right now I have it right here, because it has better sound when it's closer.
Nice.
Podcasters are familiar with the Blue Yeti.
Yeah, I have the same thing. And there's a lot of stuff going on here, a lot of cables. This is all your networking stuff, obviously.
Yeah.
That's a show by itself. That's a show by itself. Lance is into tech and hardware, as you can tell. He's got a lot of stuff. Okay, so you started there, and let's try to dig through. So this was VS 2019, 16.10. Was that announced at Build, or was that something that...
Right at the beginning of Build, Visual Studio team released the major updates. So what used to be Visual Studio Preview, which is 16.10, got moved into the main channel. And then 16.11 got moved into the preview. So now you can update all your tools and follow along with a lot of the stuff that was actually being shown at Build, except for Visual Studio 22 stuff.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right, that makes sense. Then that's the backpack stuff that you're talking about.
Yep. Now that repo, everybody go bookmark that page. So
Windows
Clint Ruckus
developers?
Yep. Go ahead and open that in GitHub. Clint Ruckus from Microsoft, put this together, and it is a nice consolidation of some of the major things that Windows developers would take away from the event. And when I say Windows Dev, I don't mean like UWP or WinRT. I mean all Windows Dev, WinForms. Maybe you're using Windows to build Linux apps in WSL2. Basically using Windows for development. That's what this kind of
Windows as a dev box, which
exactly.
What such talks about all the time.
Yes.
Interesting. Yeah, this is a lot of stuff.
WSL GUI is there.
I know you mentioned that, and that's a big thing. We have to maybe spend some time on that, and maybe we need to kind of dig into exactly what that means.
We should do a session on setting it up, because there are some things you need to be aware of, like preview and the graphics card stuff.
Okay, let's start here, because I'm seeing all of these sysmon and procmon type things. Did you have a thing about Linux? I'm trying to find it here, or maybe not.
So one more up. Here I show a screenshot of WSL GUI.
Okay. Imagine talking to a complete layman here, which I am, absolutely. I don't run Linux as my desktop, not as hardcore. So, break things down for us. What is... Oh, hang on. Chat room is getting funny. Lumjacker, good to see you. Are you really calling us legends? Really? Really? Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, Lumjacker, thanks for joining us here. And welcome, folks. Chat room is filling up. So welcome, folks. We are Sam and Lance, and we're just hanging out. It's Friday morning. We are going a little early because Mr. C Sharp Fritz, Jeff Fritz, he's doing a kind of a day-long recap. This is like an hour-long thing. If you want to see some of those Microsoft folks behind some of the announcements, then in fact, like if you hang out with us until like 10 a.m. Eastern, we are probably going to go and punt over to Fritz's channel, and he will have some of the Microsoft team folks with him today, and he's going to talk about all the things throughout the day. This is the 1 hour thing, and then comes the 8 hour thing with Fritz. So we moved up a little bit, and this is just a shorter build recap is what we're doing. Okay, so what is WSL, and what's WSL2?
So if we go back to what WSL is, it's Windows subsystem for Linux. Microsoft wanted to be able to give developers the option to be able to use some of their Linux tools in the same machine that they're using Windows on. And it started off as a very tightly integrated thing. So you had Linux that was tightly integrated with Windows in the file system trouble and stuff like that. And so Microsoft decided to hit the reset button, and they took advantage of Hyper-V. Hyper-V is a virtualization system that you can have a completely separate VM having its own access to your PC's hardware outside of Windows, but managed in by Windows. And WSL2 is actually Linux, completely Linux, Ubuntu 20, for example, as if it was running on your hardware without Windows being involved at all. But there's some extra advantages too. You get to use parts of the same file system. So your mount would be off of C, and there's lots of advantages there. So you basically pop open a terminal and then run your Linux tools commands and let that run, and then switch windows and go back to Visual Studio. It's an amazing experience. The only downside is that there's no UI. Linux didn't have any sort of UI. You can't use any GUI apps. Everything had to be command line. WSL little g stands for WSL with the GUI. Mm-hmm. And that screenshot you see there are some Linux apps running. The Linux clock, Linux calculator right next to the Windows calculator. And the very cool thing is that it's not stuck inside the same WSL window, terminal window, right? You would imagine in your head, first visualizing this, that maybe the little Linux app would pop up inside your terminal window. No, the Linux app gets its own Windows window host.
So it is running like natively in Windows, just like any other window.
Right. The window itself is piped directly to the VM. So the connection between the window and the VM is there, but there's no connection between the window and Windows, the operating system. Yep.
Yeah, okay.
And the way they help distinguish is you can see how the close buttons look different. Yeah. How the Windows 10 stuff has the Fluent design system. Yeah.
Okay, so let's back up a step. Like, who is this for, and what type of apps are we building for Linux that we need integrated inside of Windows?
So a very common one is the lamp stack. The lamp stack is
lamp stack.
Yeah, like a desk lamp. It is. I always forget the acronym. PHP, Apache.
Linux, Apache, MySQL, PHP. Interesting.
Yeah. See, so those are the things you need to build a website or build an app.
I haven't just known these things.
Yeah. For example, WordPress, right? So WordPress was originally something that you would use in a lamp stack. If I set up a new Raspberry Pi and I want to run Nginx proxy manager, I would set up a lot of the lamp stack. Or if you have a Docker container, the Docker container's different components would be parts of the lamp stack.
Mm-hmm. So prior to this, the only way you could do this was running WSL and essentially just using a VM. But now, what's the GUI part of it again? Sorry, maybe you
So
explained. I'm
yeah,
just
we haven't gotten
okay.
to the GUI part yet. So
Okay,
this is
okay.
just about how you would use Linux inside of Windows, inside WSL.
Yeah.
The GUI part is if you have an application that needs a UI or comes with a UI and you want to use that. One of the examples Microsoft used is the some artificial intelligence programming and the robot UI. So there's one example where a robot was scanning in real time an environment and navigating around that environment. And that application doesn't exist in Windows, or the
Hmm.
version that they need doesn't exist in Windows. So in such a situation, previously you would need to have a whole separate VM in Hyper-V and then remote desktop into that VM and use that stuff there. And that extra 3 or 4 steps in your workflow is really tedious. Instead
Hmm.
of you could just open up or even have some sort of script set aside and you just run the script and everything just starts working without having to start a VM, log into the VM, open it up in another window. Um, it's a lot easier.
Okay. So that WSL2 is still like running inside of a VM, but it's just much more integrated, like, or what's going on?
The WSL2 itself is the same. The GUI part is just that Windows lets WSL2 open a window.
I see.
So it pipes in a window frame. I don't know the internals on what kind of window it is, what kind of
Hmm.
handle it gets, but essentially the operating system in WSL2 has the piping to open a window. Right? It launches the application, opens the window, starts the
Hmm.
processes for the windows. But now Windows 10, the operating system knows it can take those instructions from WSL2 OS and open the window. And WSL2, as far as it's concerned, it's running a native window in Linux.
Hmm. Yeah, I pulled up this link, and maybe some of the things that you mentioned are coming from like it being completely managed and full kernel access, and yeah, kind of interoperability, being able to call each other. Interesting. Okay, so this is big, and
It
yeah,
still requires the preview version of Windows, which is the only hang up for some people, because you
yeah.
can't run it. As far as I know, I haven't tested it yet, but normally I would run a preview version of Windows inside another version of Windows. Right, so I would open up Hyper-V, I would install the next release of Windows 10 inside that VM and play around with it in there. I'm going to attempt to see if I can use the graphics system in there to run WSL GUI, but as far as I know,
Yeah.
that's not possible yet. So basically, you need to install Windows 10 Preview on another laptop or another PC that has direct
Hmm.
access to the card.
Got you. Okay. Something I wanted to mention, maybe in this regard. Hang on, I'm going to look this up. AppDev, yeah, this one. So Scott Hanselman. I was actually on a call with him, and he's just like so funny. Like he talks through like gifs on his Teams calls. He's just a funny man. But Scott Hanselman, he's a he's the man a lot of times when it comes to .NET and the community. Oh hey, Curious Drive. Hello you. Where are you? Where's my mouse pointer? There you go.
Hey, Curious Drive, welcome to the stream.
Hello. Hello, Curious Drive. Yeah, you were on with me yesterday, so thanks for joining again. Early morning. Hopefully, you have your coffee like Lance and I do. Scott lives in Portland, Oregon, but he drove down to Seattle for this, and he got like 6 or 7 really cool engineers and PMs with him. The Isaac Levinson, Felicia Shah, this is Leslie Richardson, and they just did like an informal kind of a keynote type thing where they just like sat around and dug through some of the features that they were announcing. And this was like so well made. It was almost like a office style like Netflix show. Yeah, Scott's the best presenter.
Yeah.
He's really funny. And this was well done. And Leslie and I think a few others, they were talking about like having Edge on Linux. Like what's the thing? Like Edge now runs the Chromium engine runs on Linux now.
Yep. Matter of fact, I think I tried it in Ubuntu 20. But basically, because the new Microsoft Edge is Chromium, it can support these operating systems. What Microsoft has to do on top of that is to build their UI around Chromium for that operating system, and that can sometimes take time. So
Yeah.
I've been using Edge on my Mac and PC since it first came out. It gives me all the best of Chrome with full Microsoft account integration, which is very beneficial for me.
Yeah.
So seeing this on Linux is nice as well.
Yeah. Okay, so I posted the link to that video. Check it out, folks. I think it's funny and it's nicely done.
Yeah.
One of the things, so like build has happened now. It's done as of yesterday, and a lot of folks are giving their feedback, and a lot of them are like friends of ours, like the hosts. They're very good friends of ours. Some of the negative feedback that I saw, and really you can't blame Microsoft for this, but they're catering to hundreds and thousands of people, right? So some of build comes across actually as a little like too professional, like it's a little too polished. Like some things are obviously recorded, like none of the demos failed. And you're like, yeah, I mean, but again, like when you're doing things virtually too, and you're doing it, streaming it to so many hundreds and thousands of people, you just cannot take risks, like big risks, particularly on like Scott Hunter, who's the program manager for all things .NET. Like he is tapping into like 6 different teams and gathering all of the demos in one place to show you all the cool stuff. That's just not something you can do live very easily in such a short amount of time. So
Don't forget, they had a year to prepare for this. Like last year's build wasn't as polished as this, and that was their first remote one, right?
Yeah.
So there were some lessons learned. So
yeah. So and then Microsoft gets this as well. Like it's a little like too formal. So I think what Scott and his friends did was kind of really making it informal. Like we're just chatting around here. Like I'm sure even that took a lot of production. They had a camera crew and following them around, and kind of I'm sure they rehearsed all the steps. But it just came across as kind of informal, and it was nice.
I mean, it started with the TikTok. That's great, right?
Yeah, Scott Hanselman did a TikTok of him getting the second vaccine shot and then driving over, buying cheeseburgers from McDonald's, like sitting down on the parking lot, on the street and having it, and then heading over to Seattle. So it was fun.
A friend of mine, Sebastian Lachance, he's a Windows dev in Canada. He did a TikTok of the attendees experience. It was great. So basically, like get up in the morning and then you see all like the boxes of cereal and the snack trays. And like, he pretended he was attending build in his house. It came out really good.
Oh, that's funny. Okay, so Visual Studio 2022. Hold on. Curious, right? No one cared for his Raspberry Pi Cube. That was funny. Yeah. Oh, hang on. So, Curious, right? Are you talking about that, like the pink thing that they had during that app dev demo? Maybe that's what you're talking about. Did it some things with like lighting it up through some APIs? Maybe that was the one that you're talking about. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that was fun. VS 2022. Did we have anything or no?
So we saw it loading hundreds of thousands of files. I think it was 300,000 next to VS 2019 loading the same C++ project. And it was nearly instant. So they made some virtual file loading virtualization improvements, which makes a lot of sense because that's where they've been heading in terms of improvement for Visual Studio. The major pain points that developers have is, the extensions are taking too long. And then Microsoft went and moved the extensions into an async loading process. So now the extensions don't block your project loading. The next thing was file loading. So they made some C++ improvements in loading files. And this is the next evolution in VS 2022. It's extremely fast, nearly instant, regardless of how many files are out. Like that number does not matter at this point.
Yeah. And that's the reality for like so many enterprise projects, right? You're dealing with files, like hundreds of files in a single project. So this really makes an impact as you start your day. Yeah. But I mean, we don't have anything to play around with VS 2022 yet, right?
Not yet. I don't remember exactly when they say we would get preview bits later this year or at the beginning of .NET 7 is when I expect it.
Yeah. Okay, so this was a big one. This was the one we talked about, the future of modern app dev with .NET. This was Scott Hunter, and like I said, I think he pulled together inputs from like so many different teams to kind of talk through all of this. So yeah, folks, definitely go and check this out. I think it was like half an hour, 45 minutes.
Yep,
It
30
was
minutes. 30
short and
minutes
quick.
and exactly what you need to know right
Yeah,
now. Yep.
exactly. Very, very to the point of exactly what is evolving. So let's break this down a little bit. So .NET 6 Preview 4 is out, right?
Correct.
Did they make a post about this? Yeah. So what's in it? Do you know? What's changed?
I don't know exactly all the better parts. I was mostly concerned about the Maui improvements because that's where I'm spending
As,
my time with .NET
as I
6.
am.
Yeah,
Well, let me take a look here. This is Richard Lander. We love him. He's great. Okay, so you got container images, Linux packages, known issues, maybe performance. These are some of the themes of .NET. Like this thing is actually open source, so you can actually see what they are focusing on. The last preview 3 was actually a month and a half back, so this was long due. Hot reload. This is with, like Lance said, this is VS 16.11 preview 1 is what you need to see some of the newest hot reload stuff working.
some people tend to think that just because 16.10 got moved into regular Visual Studio channel, that you get all of the new .NET 6 stuff. That's still not true. There's some stuff that Visual Studio itself and the .NET 6 Preview 4 needs to work in the preview version of like the Maui things and hot reload of code.
Yeah, very true. And curious, right? Good point here. They did something called the minimal APIs, which HTTP logging. I have no idea what that is. Okay, I can look it up. But this minimal API thing is actually nice because one of the things that, and this is actually coming from like C#9 improvements as well. Something like Lance, we don't realize, like we are kind of maybe inside a bit of a walled garden. If somebody is just coming out new to the .NET ecosystem, like why is there so much drama? Why do we need to get so much stuff going before we can start? And yeah, Visual Studio Code makes it super easy, but you still need to like write a few lines of code. Like, so this is just kind of blowing it all apart, saying just get the one using thing. You don't even need like a main.cs. Excuse me. And it's just like really quick to kind of get a API going.
True. I mean, a lot of the stuff that they removed is from legacy C# and .NET, where you need to make sure the namespaces are available. But with the improvements in the tooling, that's now unnecessary because you could just do a global using. And now, you know, a good example is you're always doing maybe system.net web or something, right? You need an HTTP client instance. And you would need to do that on every single one of your API services. And, you know, it cleans up the code a lot. And minimal API itself is about, you know, you have, let's say, a REST API, and you have your CRUD operations for some database, right? So you have all your REST methods to make the CRUD operations to your database. There used to be a lot of plumbing that had to be there, and this improvement makes that a lot cleaner. So you can see what matters versus boilerplate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's a really old post. Trying to find. That was 2017.
The term is kind of used sometimes,
Yeah.
like overused, so the search results. Maybe that next one, minimal hosting. 1721. I think they were talking about it earlier. Let's see.
Micro APIs. Scott talked about this. Maybe it's a little bit of this, like just how quickly it is to get a route and get an endpoint.
App.get is one of the examples they use for the weather app. So the weather sample uses a minimal API in app.get. Yep.
Yeah, and we can pull that up actually. So, excuse me, they made a weather app that's actually used everywhere, and it's using the API. So, we'll look at this a little bit more. So those were some of the big things, and let's see, serialization improvements. System.text.json is getting some love, which is nice. What else? Yeah, Richard is often focused on some of the the low key things which we sometimes don't appreciate enough. Some of the performance enhancements that are into going into .NET.
And
Okay,
even
so
going to
yeah,
.NET 5 was a significant improvement. Like it's hard
yeah,
to imagine all the places that they're going to keep them. There you go. There's a graph of changes.
hmm yeah,
And the improvements from .NET 5 are incredible.
yeah,
Only
yeah,
one
absolutely,
kilobyte of allocated memory for that.
yeah. It's a long post. This is what Richard is known for. Like he gets
Yeah.
really down to the nitty gritty details of like IL trimming. Like, do we even understand what that means? And then all of the low level things that go into compression and anyways.
He
But
has
this
nice
was
blog posts on
he does.
they're great.
This thing is new, and you can actually use this across. Like Lance and me use this for Maui, but you can actually use this for everything. Like there is a new .NET workload install command, which is essentially what like Visual Studio installers do. Like you choose your workloads, like ASP.NET or Xamarin, whatever. This one just does it, and they give you like 6 or 7 different IDs to kind of go get your stuff from the CLI. It's quick. So .NET new. Update check. Yeah, that's a long post, but yeah, take a look at that, and then let's this one here is all about .NET, and the things that we care about a lot are Maui and ASP.NET. So let me do look up on Maui Preview 4. So this was Dave Orkno. He and the team announced that .NET Maui Preview 4 is out, which is actually riding on top of ASP.NET 6, not ASP.NET, .NET 6 Preview 4. Right, and this is the weather app that Lance was talking about. It's a cross-platform app. The nice thing here, Lance, is like they actually started with Xamarin Forms because they wanted to see that experience. Like they are saying the process is painless, maybe within quotes. I'm sure there is a little bit of um, like manipulation you have to do to make sure the namespace is aligned and so on. But they're saying it's painless. And this is one of those cross-platform apps, so they are putting the Blazor Web View in it. So it runs on Mac, runs on Windows, and of course on iOS or Android. What I really liked, Lance, was this like the system integration is a little tighter, like these setup actions. Like you can actually have context menus on desktop and mobile that's now shared, which is nice.
That was a hard thing to do in Xamarin Forms. You needed custom renderers or some sort of you needed some code in the native app, and
Yeah.
then that native app would surface an interface to your Xamarin Forms app. Well, the interface class would be in Xamarin Forms, but basically you needed to write it for every single platform with a lot more
Yeah.
boilerplate, and
Mhm.
this is a great way to do it for a single project.
Yeah, and Kira's Drive here has a good point. If I can find my mouse and have it moved over, where is my mouse? Come on.
Yeah. Curious Drive says, it's not that difficult to upgrade
Yeah,
from .NET 5 to 6, right? That is significant because you remember the pain points going from
yeah,
.NET Core 2 to .NET Core 3. And even the move from .NET Core 3.1 to .NET 5 it was
yeah.
not too bad, but now it's so much more easier. You just change your target.
Yeah, and what I did one time on stream was actually this thing is really getting a good amount of love. So there is a .NET Upgrade Assistant, right? This is a, CLI tool, and it's meant to convert your .NET Framework apps to .NET Core 3.1 if you want to .NET 5. They don't have like .NET 6 up yet, but that's just like a change of one
Yeah.
line of code, and you have the TFM, the target framework monikers in place. So what I did one time was, Lance, I started a WPF app on full framework, used this thing to move it over to .NET 5, and then just one line of code change, and then we can have it running on .NET 6. So this thing is nice. And to Curious Drive's point, like you get to benefit all of these things by using the upgrade assistant. Like you can bring things over to .NET 5 today, and then just be ready for .NET 6. Now, granted, it's not as easy of a thing for a lot of enterprises, but then again, like take it slow. Do what makes sense for your apps.
The way I look at these is the baseline. If you can move the baseline to the other baseline easy, then it's less work for you, and you only need to focus on the things you need to change on your custom business logic. So without the pain of the framework related stuff, you have a lot more time to address the other things.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Okay, so .NET Maui Preview 4 is out. Blazor WebView is out with it, which takes Blazor apps to desktop, to mobile with much more confidence. I like the splash screens and the assets. The single project, it's coming along. It's nice that you can now actually keep your fonts, your images all in one place. There are some wrinkles that they need to kind of straighten out before this is in place. And you mentioned like Blazor like 3 times, and guess who shows up? Guess who showed up?
Yeah. His ears were burning. It's like someone's saying Blazor.
Yeah. And then Ed, feel free to just hop on if you want, and if you just want to rant, that's totally cool too. But yeah, these are early days. Like the Maui stuff for me, it worked. Everything worked, and the Blazor web views in Maui more worked. But I think like where some of these things are, like the weather app, like they pushed it out. But if you look at the repo, like maybe there are some things they are trying to fix it up. Do they have a link to this? Hang on. Where was the repo?
It is on.
I know, like, yeah, Dan Roth was talking about it, that they're still trying to fix up a few things. Like the NuGet packages, like you needed them to be local, some of them, because, or I mean, the .NET dependency, you could pull it down, but if you're using like some FAR stuff, like you needed that to be remote or local. So yeah, this one I think needs to be more flushed out. Like I can run this on a Mac. You don't need Visual Studio 6 and 11. I can run it on a Mac as well. But yeah, clearly early days. So yeah, let us know, Ed, like what you were, because I missed your stream. Like what were some of the roadblocks? Yeah, and curious, right? You have a good point here. So again, you have to do what is right for your customers and for your apps. The end user doesn't give a damn as to what framework you're running on. Is it a good UI? Is it fast, and all of those things? So build or conferences like this are really for us to kind of look ahead to see what's coming up, and then you have to kind of come back down to the reality of your present apps and see what you can do. So yeah, Lance, I was able to run this weather app just fine on Windows and Mac. And guess what? Guess who hopped on? Oh, and there he is.
Hello, friends.
Mr. Charbonneau, how are you? Early morning. So
doing
Lance
good. I will tell you my experience I've had with this so far, and
right.
It hasn't been great, but it's it's new bleeding edge tech, so you're going to have those instances where you're ahead of some of the new release stuff, and these are bleeding edge bits, and things just don't work. It's kind of typical.
What fails for you?
Okay, so if you go to the ASP.NET Preview 4 release blog post, for those that were unfortunate enough to try this the first few hours it was available, they had published the NuGet package for the template, but they didn't. Scroll all the way down to the bottom. There is a Blazor Maui template.
Oh, you're using a template. Yeah, I see. Just to kind of kickstart your app.
Yeah, and so first of all, if you want to install that template, there's a new CLI tool to get that. There's the CLI tool right there. So you do
the Maui check?
Yeah, you
That's
grab
been
Maui
for some time.
Oh, okay. Well, it's new to the Blazor folks then.
I see. Okay.
You have to run that. You may actually have to run it several times, which is not mentioned in the blog post. But sometimes the first install gets you like the dependencies, the dev dependencies. So you get your emulators and SDKs and all that. You run it a second time, and it's like, oh, hey, this is all working. Let's go ahead and give you those templates you've been trying to figure out where they went. So I had to run it twice to get it to work. And then if you scroll all the way down to the comments section, you'll see that they did not publish the NuGet packages on NuGet for the dependencies for this project.
Yeah.
Okay,
so that all just immediately failed.
So they
For
didn't give you a NuGet config with the Azure feeds?
Yeah, because I mean that's just kind of baked in. You needed that.
Yeah, they didn't, and you can see
That's a
as you
problem.
scroll down through
Yeah.
the comments that people were trying to figure out why the dependencies weren't there, and
I'll show you. Okay,
they were
so
fixing it midstream.
let me let me say two things. So for context, we are welcoming Ed into the Maui world because now Blazor now works just fine everywhere. But we need to kind of set expectations of failure, Ed. Like you can't expect things to just work. This is not the web, okay? You have to have a lot of SDKs. You need to have things that are going to be dependent upon to bootstrap your app. It's just not that simple. Let me see if I can show you like the thing that exact thing that Lance talked about. Where is this stuff? What am I looking at? I'm looking at the Weather 21 app. No, I don't want
Pull
this.
up the
Hang on.
NuGet config file.
Yeah. No, I want to show you the thing that we shipped and
Okay.
how clean that NuGet config is. Like that's exactly what you need to pull down the base. Where's our stuff?
Yeah, I always pay close attention to my NuGet configs. They're a critical component of my CI/CD and gives me full control over where packages are coming from. But to Ed's statement that if that was not there, Maui does not work.
It does not. Okay.
Yeah, it's in the comment section now, so you can try.
Yeah, it's too late.
Jump in there and see what we were dealing with that day. But yeah, I still haven't circled back and got it to work, so I need to try it one more time.
Okay, so folks, Lance, go on.
Just for context, people who are watching this right now, you're probably familiar with what NuGet is, right? NuGet.org. That is a package feed for NuGet packages. You could have your own packages feed, and that's how a lot of previews will work. They won't push the super early package to the production place, which is NuGet.org. They might have it in a DevOps feed. So these things that Sam is about to show you is Microsoft's Azure DevOps, and the builds happen there, and it creates a package, and it puts it into the DevOps feed. But this is how you have to access it.
Yeah, maybe it just wasn't like clear in the way they set it up. Like folks who are like working with Maui, like we know how to get this stuff, but it's a lot of dependencies, so it's understandable. Yeah. And to Lance's point, like so if you needed to get this, like what we also shipped in that little thing, and David was kind enough to go back and kind of update his post a little bit with some ecosystem readiness is what he called them, which is nice. So we shipped Telerik UI for Maui, our first stab at doing things right for Maui. It's a brand new suite, 4 components, and right now it's a mixed bag. Some of them are doing the compatibility thing, so we are using native UI renderers that work on Maui, and 2 of them are actually native Maui handlers. So go check it out. And this project, and Lance actually made this, like I made a post, but then Lance kind of made it much, much simpler. Like there is nothing you need to run this. It's just everything is set up for you. We give you the NuGet config. When you download this, essentially, we give you, where is that? So hold on. Documents, not in my OneDrive. Just had it open. Documents, progress, Maui. So right in here, if I look at the demo app here, so see that packages thing. This right here is the local package, and you can put whatever NuGet files obviously you want in it, and then all your NuGet config needs to do is get the .NET 6 and the Maui dependencies from Azure. dev.azure.com, and then whatever else your dependencies are. So we're actually shipping the NuGet package in that local folder, so somebody can just get it.
Yeah. That last add line is how it works. So it is a relative folder path. You don't have to have a NuGet server. That's the cool thing about NuGet package sources, is that it can actually be a folder in your file system.
So but since we have Ed here, what were some of the other ASP.NET thingies with Preview 4 other than Blazor WebView?
So one of the really big ones is AOT compilation. So we've got ahead of time compilation. So this switches Blazor from interpreted mode to compiled WebAssembly code.
That's a big deal.
Yeah, so the demo that was shown at Build, you can see screenshots of it in here, Sam. If you get to the right location, you'll see like a guy playing tennis.
Yeah.
So there's kind of like a Photoshoppy algorithm that you can kind of take things out of the photo and run a photo filter to like remove sections of like the ball or the logos in the background, things like that. Removing a large area from the photo takes, several seconds. And then once the app's compiled with AOT, it runs instantaneously. It's like, just sub 1 second times. So it's a huge increase in performance. But as Curious Drive points out here, it does make the app size bigger. So those compiled resources are a bit bigger than they are in interpreted mode.
Do you need to
trade-off.
create new packages for? Do you need to AOT for every platform when you're using web? So the web, or is it just one WebAssembly binary?
It's just one WebAssembly binary.
Nice.
Yeah.
Now this does not have any impact on Blazor hybrid apps because that's Blazor service.
No.
That's running full .NET framework.
They're running full .NET, yeah.
Yeah, which is performance-wise, it's much better. But Lance, right up here is the minimal APIs thing that we're talking about. This thing is nice, and actually they're shipping this in that Blazor app. So you just do .NET New Web and main API. This is just taking out so much of the drama that we have to have with the controller and the annotations. Like it's just map get, go get hello world. That's it, just 2 lines of code, and it's just like global using. Like I think it was like 4 or 5 lines of code, and you can have this thing up and running. Like these 3 lines are the core of it, right? Mm-hmm. So they're really trying to lower the friction that somebody might have if you're coming in new to .NET and if you're just wanting to get started. This is the way.
These are great if you want to build like nano services or microservices. You can do that very easily. Another alternative, this might be like an Azure function or something. Yeah. But at least you have options. You can decide how you want to scale this and build this.
Yeah. And performance benchmarks, Jason, Tech and PowerLink, they're like, well, how many times faster than Node.js now? Like 10 times or even more. Like they're just really showing it off now. It's gotten really, really fast.
Yeah, I kind of describe that like the way I feel about the summer heat. It's like somebody will be like, well, I'll complain about it being 90 here, and they'll be like, well, it was 110 wherever. I'm like, look, once it gets to 90, like I can't feel how much more uncomfortable it is. It's just uncomfortable. Like they've got it to the point where it's just so fast, like, why are we still measuring this thing? It's just, nobody can perceive this anyway.
Okay, so the hot where JS framework folks in the chat? Oh yeah, the JS people are hiding. They're not morning people. Curious Drive. They don't have good coffee like we do, so they don't even wake up this early East Coast.
It's those vegan diets, man. I'm kidding, folks. I'm kidding. Don't hate. Okay, if you have an angry email, send it to sambasu@progress.com, and I'm sure I'll get to it sooner or later.
Okay, so we have had hot reload in WPF forever. We have had hot reload in Xamarin forever. How is this Blazor thing any different? It's just the way it's just been interpreted.
So we haven't had hot reload. We have had page refresh that happens when you make a code change. I'm trying to remember the old name, the name of the old one. It wasn't hot refresh. It sounds like hot refresh. What is the actual name of it, though? I think it was something that came out of the MADS toolset.
Yeah. Okay, so like this is web stuff, right? And if you're doing a SPA, like this is kind of what like Webpack will do for you. Like just push out that one component update, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it'll update in real time the only the code that changed and not have to refresh the entire page. Yeah. What's really cool about this is it's maintaining state in the application as well. So if you change, for example, if you play that little video feed they have there, they're changing the code for the count by value in the counter.
Mm-hmm.
and it will maintain the state of that counter as you count up and down, or up, or however it works. And it doesn't reload the page at all. It just changes the counter value, just magically on the fly. What's really nice about this is you can debug this code much easier. You can prototype things much faster, and you don't have to keep reloading the page over and over, which is, it's really handy if you're on a specific like sub page in the application. It's not going to keep going back like to the home page or something. You don't have to keep navigating around. It's a much faster iteration cycle.
Okay,
So-
I'm a little confused. Is this for WebAssembly or is this for server side or both?
So this is where things get confusing, and hats off to Dan. Like he's tried to put this together the best way possible. You know how hard it is to be a program manager shipping hot bits, but it is rather confusing as to what exactly you can and can't do with it right now. So what I found is you can use hot reload with Blazor full stack on WebAssembly, so you can have an ASP.NET Core server and a WebAssembly front end if you're using .NET Watch. Okay, so .NET Watch works perfectly with this hot reload concept.
Wait, so that's literally reading the files off your hard drive, and when it sees that you made a change, it just like compiles and then pushes that part of the DLL out to the client side?
Yeah, and it patches it, live patches it, and keeps the state of the app. That works fine in full stack. It works also in WebAssembly, which it didn't. It only worked in WebAssembly in the last release. It works in full stack in this release. The hot reload apply code changes button that you see in this blog post only works with Blazor server.
Yeah.
So what that one does is you don't even have to save the file. You can press a button in the UI in Visual Studio. And without even saving, it will give you that hot reload effect.
Yeah,
so
like
you can
there's
really
a little
move
button
fast.
that comes up here. Yeah, I see.
So
like,
that
this is what
is Blazor server only at the moment.
and this is what we are using in .NET Maui, like the Blazor web view. That's all server side. So maybe we'll have this when you build Blazor hybrid apps. I mean, the whole like the hybrid thing is just like an overused term. Like, I'm just going to keep on calling them like Blazor desktop apps. Essentially, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think they mentioned at Build that all of the hot reload technology, it may be in that blog post that's linked up above there, Sam.
Yeah.
All of the hot reload technology is coming to all of the various
Yeah,
.NET
it's everywhere.
development cycles.
Yeah, and a lot of this work is actually being done by Dimitri Leinin and his team. So they are sweating it out, trying to bring like feature parity to everything. Okay, back to Lance's Twitter stream, because he was a dev MC, and you and me, while we were just lazing around, Lance was live tweeting everything for Windows and the other dev audiences. This was big. This was coming straight out of Scott Hunter's session, the One.NET Promise. So with .NET 5, they brought the runtimes for Blazor. Now they're bringing it over to for Maui as well. This thing is important, like the native UI strategy, and then the cross-platform web UI is where Blazor is. Yeah, this includes Maui too. So, Lance, anything I'm missing out saying?
No, that's basically it. There is still some confusion in the community about the difference between Xamarin Forms and what Maui is, and it's starting to propagate what the base changes are. Right now, Xamarin Forms, you're using a .NET Standard class library for your XAML, and you're using a .NET Framework class projects for the individual platforms. This is .NET 6.
Yeah.
And it's one project that will compile for a specific platform when you set the target framework moniker and a little drop down at the top.
Yeah. Absolutely. And one of the bigger changes for Xamarin Forms is, hang on, let me see if I can put it up by yours truly, because I'm writing this for the team. But one of the best videos of like some of the internal code changes in Maui, like we are going from a renderer model which only worked for Xamarin Forms to a handler model which works for MVU, which works for Blazor, which works for Maui. That's a bit of a change, and Javier Suarez, I think is his last name. He had done a wonderful talk for this thing called Monkey Fest, and he really kind of dug into what the handler architecture is. So take a look at this. Just do a search on Maui handlers. You'll likely end up on this page, and it's a really good explanation of what the handlers are.
If you plan on doing any Maui development, I think it's extremely helpful. It's not required, but extremely helpful to understand how handlers work.
Yeah, absolutely. And folks were asking us, Lance, about like what we were doing. Keep in mind, like these are very, very early days. So as the .NET Maui previews mature, we are going to be able to do more and have cleaner architecture. But if you look at startup.cs, this is our project that I'm talking about. You see some of the things we are doing. It's a little bit of a mixed bag right now. Straight up front, like we are doing things for iOS or Android. Like of the 4 things we did, like the button and the chart, those are actually the native controls, and you can see we are using the native renderers right here. We are bringing in the renderers for Android and the ones for iOS, and then creating them all into one namespace so you can just use it inside of Maui. But then you look at these two, which is the items control, which is essentially like a list view, and then the rad border. Those are handlers, right? So again, just a mixed mode. We are just starting out, and we'll obviously do a lot more.
And Sam, I don't know if you've been following any of my shows I've been doing, but I've been heavily advertising this wonderful Maui article series called Sands of Maui. You might want to mention that.
Yeah.
Sam's been blogging about this for quite a while, so make sure you check out blogs.telerik.com.
No, thank you. And we made a tag out of it, I think. So, yeah, I think there's a tag. So this one here brings out all of the issues that we have. Essentially, I'm just highlighting everything that the community does, because there's a lot to learn. And if you're coming in new to Maui, there's just a lot to take in. So every week, I just try to pull together the best resources for the community.
Well done, my friend.
Oh, thank you. So what else was new? The weather app demos were right there. We saw that. .NET Deep Dive. What was in this session? Lance, I missed out on this one.
That is the 30-minute session from Scott.
No,
Scott
this was the deeper dive. Oh, this was also Scott?
Yeah, I think so.
I thought like the different PMs got together for like a better discussion.
Oh, that might be another session.
Yeah, okay.
There were 2 or 3 .NET 6 ones.
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly which one that was.
And for the Windows folks, this is Andrew, what's his name? Glinick, right?
Clinic. Yep.
Clinic. Okay, so this is for Project Reunion. What was new for Windows devs?
So Project Reunion 0.8, if you pull it up, they released it finally yesterday. The bits came out. It was planned for June, but they were able to get it out a little sooner. So you can now use these APIs in unpackaged mode. So you could have a WPF app that's not packaged, and you can still take advantage of the modern Windows 10 APIs from the WinRT layer, which is a big deal for some devs who don't want to package their apps. I still recommend packaging because MSIX is amazing and you get all sorts of cool stuff, but all of that cool stuff is now bleeding into unpackaged apps. So take advantage of it everywhere.
Look who's lurking. Hey.
And ARM64. Yep.
Good to see you, Sinclair. Sinclair Nader. I love your handle. Yes, ARM64 Sport. Yep. So, like, if you started a Project Reunion app now with the latest bits, like, would you not have the separate package folder anymore or the project anymore? I haven't tried.
I'm not sure. Oh, so let's say you have a solution that has a WPF project, and a normal packaged app would have another packaging project.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Now you don't need the packaging project. You just pull in Project Reunion templates into the WPF project and take advantage of it. Okay. That's how you still did it before, but it wouldn't work, and now it works.
I see. Okay.
And all right. What else was there?
That's the project. This is Ginny. We love Ginny. She was another dev MC. Winget. Yeah.
I love Winget.
Okay, tell us about Winget. What is Winget?
So It's a package manager, but it's going to be built into Windows 10. I think it might already be built into the previews at this point. So, NuGet is a package manager. NPM is a package manager. Chocolatey is a popular Windows package manager.
So why do you read another one?
That has been a conversation. I really can't dig into that now. But basically, it's a Windows, it's a officially sanctioned Microsoft package manager that's built into Windows 10 that you can have confidence that you have a little script of all the things your dev box needs, a little JSON file, right? Kayla Cinnamon had a great talk on this at MS Build. And basically, you just have a clean, brand new Windows 10 machine. You load up this JSON file with everything you need, and you're done. All your tools are installed. Yeah.
No, I didn't want to put you on the spot, but like Scott Hanselman's app dev thing that he did with like 7 or 8 other folks, he did Winget because like he apparently started from a fresh box, and you just fired away things in a JSON file and say, go get me the stuff, and 30 gigs later, no, I'm just kidding. But it's a bit of a download when you're getting everything, but you'll have everything. And
it depends on what you're getting. Yeah, exactly. I have some packages on Winget, and takes you a second to install my things.
Interesting. You see that, Ed? One more package manager. Yeah.
So that was a little more about the backpack. Now, towards the end of build, I had added more to the backpack, and I wanted to show the advantages. And that screenshot is what those little extras are.
This is nice.
Yep.
So, folks, go ahead and export your backpack, because they apparently put in new stuff, not just the recording of the sessions, but additional resources and demos from the teams.
There are some breakouts that weren't live that are only on demand, and you can add those to your backpack and watch later too.
Yeah. Like we talked about Fritz, and he's starting up a 8-hour unpacking thing sometime now, I think.
Yep.
But Fritz did a session on streaming, and a lot of us could not get in. They had something with the link because like it's meant to open up in Teams, but that never did. So I think it's recorded, and now you can just download that. Teams is amazing because like if you look at the number of people, and we like Ed, me, and Lance always talk about .NET. Like we don't talk enough about like Teams and Azure because we just don't maybe know enough. Like except for Lance. Lance does everything on Azure. CI/CD and builds and whatnot, but I just don't know enough about like some of the internal architectures of Teams and how they have scaled. Because didn't there like numbers of concurrent like Teams users like double or triple between like 2020 and now? Like it's just an insane number of people, like 45 million or something number of people using Teams every day. That's a lot.
They needed to bump the number of people they could support in a meeting too. It's like now there's some like 100,000 attendees type of mode too. Yeah.
Oh boy. And they're working on some of the pain points, like the Teams like tenants thing. It just confuses the heck out of me because like every time I switch, there are like permissions things like for like conferences that I'm speaking at, like they set up a new tenant and then I have to make sure I do it beforehand because like if I try doing it last minute, I know I will fail. So they're just things to just keep in mind.
Yeah. One pro tip there is don't, like if you're doing some new Teams thing, don't open it in the Teams app, just open it in the browser. It helps keep things separate. Like you could keep your main Microsoft Teams in your normal work tenant and in the browser in the temporary one.
Gotcha. All right. So what else are we missing, Lance? That was it.
So digital twins.
What is
I'd
that?
like to at least squeeze this in. So I'm actually going to do this. It's probably going to take me a year when my HoloLens 2 comes. But basically, imagine if you could take a real world thing, right, and you build a virtual version of it, like let's say the example Microsoft uses the Anheuser-Busch factory to make beer. And you can imagine the logistics it takes to make beer and ship it to customers. From growing to shipping to processing, they created a virtual version. Like you make a mesh and it has a digital version of itself in the metaverse. And each part of this has some sort of IoT device. So imagine you have a big tank that cooks the grains, right? Boils the grains. You have temperature sensors, you have height sensors, you have all these different things. Normally, people would have to be on the floor in the factory looking at the measurement equipment to make sure things are okay. What if you could take the metadata or the analytics coming out of those IoT devices into some central system and see that on the digital version of that thing? So that's where the word digital twin comes from, is that there's a real world version of it, and then now there's a digital version of it that you can look at in mixed reality, you can look at on the PC, and all of those signals coming from all over the different parts of your system are all brought to you. So it's just like Total Recall. Like, this is real life Total Recall stuff. You zoom into the thing, you select it, you look at how hot it is, you zoom out, you go to another part of the factory, you look at the road over the mountain on the map, and you see a truck driving along with your beer, and it tells you how much it's going and how fast the truck is going. It's pretty crazy.
Okay, so this is recreating stuff from your real-world apps in mixed reality.
The real world things,
real world assets.
Yeah.
Assets.
Yeah.
So NVIDIA's doing this as well. And NVIDIA, what do they call it? They call theirs Omniverse, I think, which is maybe a little marketing overstretch. But essentially the demos they showed are, you're going to open a new, let's say, let's go something Sam's ballpark, an Audi factory, and you can build that factory with real assets, but in a virtual environment, and even train workers with VR headsets and things before the factory opens. So you don't have that lag time between construction and actually getting a car off the production. You can bring in workers that are actually trained. You can solve problems before the factory opens, make sure there's enough space in the aisles and robots aren't going to collide with each other. You can even train the robots to path between the warehouse and deliver goods and stuff, and learn their routes and things before the factory even exists in real life.
It's kind of like SimCity, where you drop a new mall, right? You drop a mall on your map and it just works. That's kind of what that prepares you for. Yeah.
Interesting. All right,
so I plan on doing my home lab. So you remember the picture you showed at the beginning of the stream? Mm-hmm. I'm going to make a digital twin of my home lab parts, and then take my Unify Dream Machine. It's a Linux operating system, and I can get different things out of it. So I'll be able to look at it, and I can see my upload and download speeds and how fast the VPNs are working, and every VPN is connected. And then I would look at the PC on top and see how my GPU's temperature is, or something like that. So
I get it.
My first test.
All right, so we're a little over, but Lance, overall, your thoughts on build, what you saw was most exciting to you?
I'm excited that Windows is now, not now, but it's back in part of the serious conversation. Yeah. Right? It's been a few years since it's been front and center, probably since Steve Ballmer around there. Mm-hmm. But I like that everything is coming to a head for the planning of the past few years. We've been talking about it for a while, and as Microsoft MVPs, we get to see a little bit of the internal conversation, and these are really coming to fruition, and seeing Project Reunion mature, and it's going to be V1 soon, and .NET 7 and VS 2022. It's exciting.
Yeah. All right, Ed, your turn. What disappointed you a little bit, and then what were you excited with?
Oh boy! I hope I don't get any more hate mail here.
You're just live on the internet. What can
I'm still a little bit burned by the pandemic, I guess you could say, and these events are just much better live. So while I understand the need to do it virtually, it just doesn't have the same.
Yeah,
it doesn't pique the same interest as it does going in person, and seeing these things with hands on. So
yeah. I think Hanselman had it in his TikToks, yet another Teams call. It's just it takes a toll.
I miss the expo floor. right?
Exactly. So I think that's the big downside for me. The worst thing about Build is that it was virtual, but that's out of necessity. So it's not anyone's. There's nobody to blame for that. But it's part of what we're dealing with this last few years, and it kind of sucks still. I'm still very interested in the Blazor hybrid stuff. I like to see web everywhere, and I think the web programming model is one of the most flexible and low barrier to entry for new developers. I think it's the learning curve in the .NET space is one of the better onboarding experiences for the web. I think we went through that whole JavaScript fatigue thing, and I think unfortunately it may have shaken off a lot of would-be devs. And I think if those same people picked up Blazor and tried to use it, I think that might have piqued their interest more and opened up a new opportunity for a lot of people to have a career they enjoy.
Well said. Yeah, Sinclairinator. Yeah, you tell us. Absolutely, we missed trips to Seattle and just hanging out in person. Oh, and I see you're talking about getting back to me. Yeah, so I have a user group. So does Ed, and we help run these things. So come and talk to us the things that you're passionate about. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Sam?
So for me, I get everything that you're saying, Lance, like Windows as the dev box. I get it, but I live more in a cross-platform world. So to me, Maui and .NET 6 being open source and running everywhere, that's the exciting part, because I can switch between a Mac and a Windows. It does not matter. It's the same app, same tools that I'm building with, and I'm okay with web everywhere. I'm excited about Blazor everywhere because I think it's just going to enable more people to build native experiences. And we have seen those demos. I think Lance, you and me have done stuff where you can integrate some of the native stuff inside of your Blazor hybrid apps, so to speak. Those are absolutely native apps on Windows and Mac. So yeah, I'm excited about some of these things.
The right tool for the job is my philosophy, right?
Absolutely.
There's this curve when you start development, like the language you started with is the best in the world. It's the only one to use. And then as you gain more experience, you stop doing that. You're like, whatever is the best for what I need right now.
Absolutely.
So one of the languages I started with was VB6, and I don't know if that applies to my scenario.
No, there's a couple of that doesn't apply. Yeah,
I don't know if I've ever said VB6 is the best in the world. It got the job done. We'll say that.
Yeah. All right, hang on. So let me bring things over so I can look at you straight instead of having to look down on my other monitor. But looks like Mr. Fritz is up. So what we tried doing this morning, and Lance, thank you for joining me so early. I know you have meetings and things all day, but thanks for grabbing coffee and joining me. We just tried doing a 1 hour recap. Fritz is doing an 8 hour recap, and he's gotten a lot of the folks from Microsoft Teams to join him. And we'll hop over and we'll be in the chat rooms and out with him all day. So, folks, Curious Drive, Sinclairinator, and everybody else in the chat room, thank you for hanging out with us. Thank you. And thank you, Ed, for hopping on. Just randomly, like Curious Drive said, it's like a Teams meeting. You just hop on. The other day, Lance, I was doing an interview where my internet and my power went out, and Ed just hopped on and just continued as if nothing had happened. So thank you.
I felt bad for you, Sam, but I felt even worse for Jimmy because he was just kind of like,
what happened?
When your connection finally dropped completely, all of the little windows went away, and it was just his face, big screen by himself, and he was like, so.
Thank you for saving the day. Thank you.
Hey, no problem, man.
All right, folks, thank you. Like I said, we're going to hop over to C# Fritz and continue all day long. All right, so thank you.
Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.